I put so many hours into filming it, into editing it, and I truly appreciate your support and the fact that you are here. I won't keep it long, I know you're ready to start. Just wanted to mention that these two tops are for sale in my shop. The orange one is size small, 4 to 6. The pink one is size medium, 8 to 10. Grab your yarn, crochet hook, let's get to work. Alright friends, let's begin this journey. So for the top I will be using this yarn, Studio Samples by Nicole Mills and Cotton Blend. I bought it at AC Moore. It doesn't have any specifications. I know it's 1 pound, that's it. It goes really well with 5mm hook or H8. That's what we're going to be working with. If you don't have AC Moore close by, there is another option. I found this Sugar and Cream Lily by Yarnspirations. You can buy it online, yarnspirations.com. I bought it at AC Moore as well, but Michaels has it. I think Hobby Lobby has something similar. Really all you need is some cotton yarn that requires a 5mm hook. It's a medium weight. Just take a look at the specifications. If you can find similar yarn, you can use any yarn you want. Basically the yarn shouldn't necessarily be cotton. You can use acrylic. Just make sure the yarn requires 5mm hook. If you live overseas, obviously you don't have this yarn. Pick a yarn that you like that requires a 5mm hook. It should work regardless whether it's cotton, acrylic, blends. Just you need any yarn that requires a 5mm hook. We will begin the project by making the squares. We will make one square and I will give you the directions what to do next. This is the diagram of the square. If you like diagrams, I will put the link down in the description box. It will take you to my Pinterest board where I'm gonna have this picture. I'm not sure how large this picture is and how good the quality is going to be, but I will link it so it's easier for you if you like diagrams better. We will start by making a slip knot. And we will chain 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We will close the ring by slip stitching into the first. Like so. Chain 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. To this one we will add 3 more trebles. To make a treble you will yarn over 3 times. 1, 2, 3. Insert the hook into the circle, pick up the yarn, pull it through. Yarn over, pull through only 2 loops. Yarn over, pull through only 2 loops. Yarn over, pull through 2 loops. And don't finish because we need them all together. Then we will add 2 more. Yarn over 3 times. Insert the hook into the circle, pick up the yarn, pull it through. Yarn over, pull through 2. Yarn over, pull through only 2 loops. Yarn over, pull through only 2 loops. And 1 more. Yarn over 3 times. Into the circle, pick up the yarn. Yarn over, pull through 2. Yarn over, pull through 2. Yarn over, pull through 2. The chain 4 counts as the beginning of the treble, and we have 3 more, so 4 trebles total. Now yarn over and pull through all 4 loops. Chain 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, and we will put only one treble. Yarn over 3 times and repeat the same steps. Into the circle, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, and yarn over, pull through 2. Chain 4 again, and now we need 3 more, just like here. We made the first one and we made the treble. Now we're going to be chaining 4 and adding, so we have total of 4 groups and total of 4 trebles by themselves. So chain 4, next is going to be a group, yarn over 3 times, insert the hook into the circle, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, and yarn over, pull through 2. Remember, we're not finishing them. So add the next treble, yarn over, pull through 2, 2, and 2. The second unfinished treble. Now we're gonna add the third one, and the fourth. Alright, 4 unfinished plus the loop from here, yarn over, pull through all 5 loops, and you're gonna have to move these trebles. Then we will chain 4 again and 1 treble. Like so. Now you're gonna chain 4 again and add a group, a treble, a group, a treble. So we have total of 4 groups and 4 1 standing trebles. And the last 1 treble goes in between these 2 groups that we have. Chain 4 and slip stitch into the top of this group. Like so. This is what we have. Now right here we're gonna chain 1, put 4 single crochets into the chain 4 space, 1, 2, 3, 4. Into the one treble we will put double crochet, chain 1, double crochet, everything into the stitch. So double crochet, chain 1, double crochet goes into the same stitch. We're forming our corner. We will put 4 single crochets into the chain 4 space, 1, 2, 3, 4. Single crochet on top of this group, 5, and 4 more into this space, 6, 7, 8, 9. And another corner, double crochet, chain 1, double crochet into the same space. There are our 2 corners. And now we're gonna do the same. 4 single crochets, 1, 4 single crochets, and a corner. So 4, 1, 2, 3, and 4. Then 1 into on top of the group, into this stitch, 4 into the next chain 4 space. 1, 2, 3, 4. And there's our third corner. Double crochet, chain 1, double crochet into the treble, double crochet, chain 1, double crochet, and go ahead and do this part. I will meet you at the end, and we will put the last 4 single crochets into the last chain 4 space. Here where we chained 1 in the beginning, we will slip stitch into it. Insert the hook, pull up a loop, and pull through. Then you're gonna chain 1 and pull up a longer tail. And this is the square that you made. It should look like this. Alright, now see where these squares are right here on my hips. You decide where your squares are gonna be placed. Let's say you want the same exact design, it's gonna be on your hips. Go ahead and measure the circumference of your hips. Do that and write that number somewhere on a piece of paper. So I measured myself. I had 36 inches, or let's say 91.5, let's say 92 centimeters. This is the exact measurement that is really snugly around your hips. Now spread the square a little bit and measure it how much it measures. So this one is 3.5 inches or 9 centimeters. 3.5 or 9. Now we will count how many squares we need so it's enough to go around our hips. You will take the total measurement of your hips, divide it by the measurement of the square. And I got a number 10.2, so I will need 11 squares. Or let's do the centimeters. 92 divided by 9, 10.2. Regardless of what you do, which measurement, it's gonna end up with the same number. And here is my stack of squares. You go ahead and do your stack of squares and come back. We will sew them together. If you like, you can iron your squares or steam them however you want. I like to do it at the end of the project. To sew the squares, we're gonna need darning needles. I have a plastic one and a metal one. They don't have sizes. You can buy them at any craft store. It's called darning needle, and it really doesn't matter what kind of needle you use. I like to use the plastic one because it bends. And how I measure how much I need is I usually go maybe twice the length of the square. So let's say once, twice, and a little more, like so. If you are afraid it's not going to be enough, don't cut the yarn, but I think it's going to be enough for me, so I'm cutting the yarn so I don't have a long tail. And put the yarn through the darning needle. Now the squares are turned with the right side to me. I'll go ahead and turn them with the wrong side towards you. In the corners we had double crochet, chain 1, double crochet, so you will insert your needle into the chain 1 space. Like so. And the chain 1 space on this corner. This one. And pull the needle through. Leave a small tail. And now we're going to be taking each stitch because they're equal amounts. We should not have anything extra. So these are our loops that we need. But I like to go ahead and grab the 2 loops. One of the loops is going to be on the right side. Here is the same. There's the next loop right here. I like to grab both. But if it's confusing for you, just grab these loops, and that should be good enough as well. I just like to have them extra secure. And moving into the next, grabbing the next two loops. As you can see, I'm not grabbing the front loop, only the back. And into the next. And so on. Make sure not to insert the needle twice into the same loop. So you have enough chains. Be patient, do not rush, because if you are gonna skip a stitch, it's not gonna even out when you come to the end. So just take your time. And these are the double crochets that I'm sewing together. And these are the chain one parts right here. And now I like to even out the strand of yarn, so I have the tails are kind of equal. You totally can skip this step, but to not make it too tight like this, you want to spread the stitches. So that's why I didn't secure neither in the beginning nor at the end. And spread the stitches so it looks straight. And this is the right side, how it looks like one seamless seam, let's say that. Now you can work in the tails however you want. Let me show you how I do on only one side. So I like to unwind kind of the yarn and see how many strands it has. This one has like 6 or 7. So the 3 strands are gonna stay here. These couple of strands are gonna go into this side. And if you have a short tail, do just insert the needle first, like so, and then put the yarn through. And I like to tie knots. I don't trust when you work it in, it will come out anyway. Just put 2 knots, and because it's cotton or whether acrylic, if you want, put the 3rd knot. Totally up to you. Oops, like so. And cut off the tail. Oh. And that is what we have. You can barely see it. And the same principle I will use on this. And as for these tails, I would like to work them so they are on the wrong side. Maybe with the needle I'll just pull it through right here somewhere and do exactly the same. Separate the yarn and cut and tie. Now you are gonna use the same exact method and connect all your squares in a long stripe. When you make this line of squares, before you sew the first and the last one together, put it around your hips and measure it if it's good enough. If it's too tight, go ahead and make one more square. If it's perfect, sew the first one with the last one together, and you will have a band that goes around your waist. And from there, we will go up. And these are my 12 squares already sewn together. I worked the tails in. So just grab yours and let's start working upwards towards the neck. Make sure everything is turned with the right side towards you. And you can join pretty much anywhere you want. Just keep in mind that that part is going to be on the left side of your garment, so the seam is, you know, like always on the sides. So I'm gonna join into the double crochet right here. And chain 3. That will count as the first double crochet. Because we're going to be working V-stitches, we will need one more chain and put a double crochet into the same stitch. If you don't know, a V-stitch is a double crochet, chain 1, double crochet. The chain 3 counts as a double crochet plus chain 1 and a double crochet. Then we will skip 2 stitches and put a V-stitch into the next. Double crochet, chain 1, double crochet into the same stitch. Like so. This is how you're going to be going all the way around. Yarn over, skip 2, V-stitch into the next. Double crochet, chain 1, double crochet. Again, skip 2, V-stitch into the next. Double crochet, chain 1, double crochet. Like so. And as I come to the end of the round, well, it worked out. Skip 2, put a V-stitch here. And these are the 2 remaining. If you have 3, skip the 3. You shouldn't have more than 3 to skip. So 2 or 3, skip them and slip stitch into the 3rd chain from the beginning. Like so. Now slip stitch into the V-stitch to the left. Turn the work to the wrong side and put a V-stitch inside of this V-stitch. So you will chain 3, that counts as a double crochet, plus chain 1 and a double crochet into the same space. So we have our V-stitch into the V-stitch. And now you are going to be putting V-stitches inside of the V-stitches all the way around. Yarn over, double crochet into the V-stitch, chain 1, double crochet into the same space. To the next, double crochet into the V-stitch, chain 1, double crochet into the same space. And again, double crochet into the V-stitch, chain 1, double crochet into the same space. And this is how you're gonna go all the way around. And as I come to the end of the round, I will put the last V-stitch into the last V-stitch from the previous round and slip stitch into the 3rd chain from the beginning. 1, 2, 3. Now I'm gonna slip stitch into the V-stitch to the left and turn the work. And to start this round, we will chain 4. The chain 3 counts as a double crochet plus chain 1 and a double crochet into the same space. And as you can see, our chain 3 or the seam is gonna stay within this V-stitch. And we are going to be repeating the same exact steps, putting V-stitches all the way around into the V-stitches from the previous round. Like so. Double crochet, chain 1, double crochet. And you're going to keep adding V-stitches until you reach the area right above your chest or close to the armpit. Then you're gonna have to make more squares. For me, it's 4 in the front and 4 in the back. For you, depending on how wide you are from the center right here to the armpit or to where you want your sleeve to opening to be. You're gonna put either 2 or 3 or 4 squares. If you are not able to have an even number of squares, so you can divide them and start your opening right here at the where the squares start. You're gonna put your odd number of squares, and only after that, on top of the squares, you are gonna be able to make an opening for your blouse. If you're wondering if you have to decrease and increase again, no, you don't. Actually, I made a straight tube, and because the yarn is cotton, it drapes really nicely on the curves, wherever you have curves. Just make a straight tube, and I will meet you here, well, where I will show you how I'm sewing the squares to the top. And my top is ready. Well, not the whole top, the tube part. I put 23 rounds of V-stitches. Now it's gonna be a little bit of math, but it's not difficult. Don't freak out. What you have to do now is count your V-stitches, all the stitches around. Start with the V-stitch where your side seam is, and you will be able to see it because it differs just a little bit. So put a stitch marker in the first, and I'm cheap, I just use pieces of yarn. Count all the V-stitches around. So this one is the first one, the second, third, fourth, and so on. Count them all, and you're gonna get a number. I got, for my circumference of the bust, I got 48 V-stitches. You're gonna divide whatever number you have into 2, and I ended up with 24. So starting from V-stitch number 1, I counted 24 V-stitches and put a stitch marker into it. So basically I found where the half of the top is. If you have an odd number, let's say 49, 51, or any odd number, take it one stitch down to the even number. So 49 will go to 48, 51 go down 1 to 50, and divide that number by 2. Let's say, like the 48, I divided by 2, and I ended up with 24. The one that you subtracted is going to be the 25, let's say, right? We end up with 49. Put the 25, the larger number, to be at the front, and the lesser number to be in the back. Why it's okay to have one extra in the front is because we have bust, we have a little belly. So that would be fine to divide, to put the larger number in the front. Once you've marked the sides of the blouse, go ahead and try it on, and make sure the stitch markers are right in the middle of your armpit. Then you are gonna count from the stitch marker to the left and to the right the exact amount, how much you want to leave for your armpits. So I tried this, and the 5 V-stitches are enough for my arm side or arm opening. So I added 2 to the left and 2 to the right. Depending on how wide your arms are, try to divide that number evenly, counting the middle one and then adding to it. And then you will want to mark those V-stitches. So the total of 5, 2 to the right and 2 to the left. And I'll put stitch markers there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Try not to put the stitch marker into the V-stitch, put it in the middle, in between the V-stitches, like so. And now I can remove this stitch mark in the middle. If you want, you can leave it there. I don't need it. And I'm gonna do the same on this side. At this point, you are gonna be using the squares that you prepared for the back and for the front. So this is my back, the seam is on the left hand side. And let me count what I have, how many V-stitches I have on my back. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. You count yours and find the middle. So 20 divided by 2 is 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. This is the exact middle. So I would want the middle of my squares to be right here at the middle. And again, the middle is between the V-stitches. And kind of mark it. If you have a stitch marker, just put it with the stitch marker. So I'm gonna have to stretch these squares so they fit the back part. And it looks like I'm only one V-stitch short, but that's fine. I will just sew these squares to this panel, and I will have one extra V-stitch right here for the arms. You're gonna have to count the width of your project, or to see the width of your project. If you need to add the 5th or the 6th square, do that and just align the squares with the back panel. Now you're gonna turn the work and we're gonna have to sew the squares from, obviously, from the wrong side. And because I already measured, I know that I need to skip this V-stitch and insert the needle in between the V-stitches. And then I'm gonna insert the needle into the chain 1 space in the corner. And to secure this part and not move, I'm just gonna tie a knot. And now I'm gonna be moving from right to left, sewing the square to the back panel in each stitch. So grabbing the loop from the V-stitch and a loop from the square. Like so. I like to grab 2 loops. If you're more comfortable with 1 loop, that works as well. And I'm working each and every loop. Try not to pull too tight so it doesn't gather. You can always adjust it if it's a little too loose, but when it gets too tight, it's a little too difficult. And this is how you go until you connect the squares to the back side. This is how it's gonna look on the other side. A really nice clean edge. And go ahead and finish connecting the squares to the back side of the blouse. And this is how it's gonna look like. And there is almost the end of my sewing. Now let's see how it looks like. So I need it to end right here. So if you have to put a few stitches into the same space or into the same loops, do that, but kind of try to adjust it so it ends exactly where you want. and the last loop of the V-stitch goes with the chain 1 in the corner of the square. And one more time. And cut off the yarn. And there is the back part sewn. Now for the front. Here I need 4 for the front, just like I need as many I need for the back, the same number I need for the front. For you it would be the same thing. So if you have an even number, you would divide them to match here and here. And if you have an odd number, you would not have an opening here, you would just put them just like one band, just like in the beginning, in the back. Or if you have an odd number, you can skip one of the squares in the middle so you can have an opening in the front. Totally up to you. And it looks like my 2 squares are gonna take up 9 V's on this side and 9 V's on this side. So you're gonna have to sew them so it's an equal number of V's connected to the squares. And again, we're gonna have to turn this with the back side towards us. And with the stitch marker I marked the middle of the front, and make sure to put the squares to face back side towards you and back side of the blouse towards you, and sew them exactly like you sewed the back, these back ones, and make sure to stretch them so they end up right here. Don't stretch them too tight because when you leave it, it will gather the blouse. Just kind of iron it with your hand and see after you block or after you iron that they are gonna take up exactly these spaces. And that is what we have, and that is what you should have. The back side, the front sides, and some space for the arms. So this is our current top, and I will insert a picture so you can see how it fits on my body. It should fit approximately the same on your body. This line is right on top of your chest or of your breast, and this is above it. And now we're gonna have to add, on this blouse I added 7 rows of V-stitches. On this one I think it's gonna be more because I'm working with a smaller hook size. We will start with the back. So once you try your blouse and see where it ends, you're gonna have to add that amount of rows that will go all the way up to your shoulder seams. This is a straight rectangle. The curve will form later when you start wearing it, and it's gonna go down a little bit, so you're gonna have a nice curve on the back. Other than that, it's just a plain rectangle of rows. For the front, I added the same amount of rows on each side, and only then we are gonna add some edging. So let's start with the back. We'll start with a slip knot and join into the chain 1 space right here in the square. Chain 3, that counts as a double crochet, chain 1, and put a double crochet into the same space. So we made a V-stitch. Yarn over, skip 2, and insert the hook into the next and put a V-stitch. Again, skip 2, V-stitch into the next. Like so. And this is how you're going to be going. If it happens that your next V-stitch is a little farther than these two, you're going to have to skip only one. Try to keep the spaces between the V-stitches equal. So you're going to have to kind of play around. See right here, if I would put the V-stitch 1, 2 all the way into this one, the gap is going to be too wide. So I'm skipping only one and putting a V-stitch into the next. And this way the V-stitches are going to be distributed evenly. Then again skip 2, V-stitch into the next. Now for the next V-stitch, if I skip this chain and skip this chain and put the V-stitch here, this gap is going to be a little too wide. So we are going to skip only one stitch. Then this is the seam, and insert the hook into the next stitch. And now they are evenly distributed. Then again skip 2, V-stitch, now here same problem. If I skip this and all the way here, the gap is going to be too wide, so I'm skipping only one and we'll insert the hook right here into this stitch. Then skip 2, then again I have 2, and this is all the way here, skipping the seam, so I'm gonna have to skip only one and put the V-stitch here. And so far you can see they're as even as possible. Then next we have again the seam, the chain, and if I put it here, look how wide it is. So I'm gonna have to skip the seam, one chain or one stitch, and then put the V-stitch here. Then the regular 2 and a V-stitch. And I finished the row with a V-stitch into the chain 1 of the square. Now we're gonna turn the work. As you can see, everything is nice and as even as I could make it. We'll start the row by slip stitching into the V-stitch, chaining 4, chain 3 counts as a double crochet plus chain 1, and put a double crochet into the V-stitch. Like so. And you will just keep adding V-stitches into each V-stitch until you reach the end of this row. Like so. And this is the end of the row number 2. The last V-stitch goes into the last V-stitch from the previous row. And from now on, you're gonna repeat the same steps. Turn the work, slip stitch into the V-stitch, chain 4, double crochet into the same space, and so on and so forth. So this is the back side, and I needed 7 rows to reach the base of the neck from the back. And the same exact 7 rows I added to the front. And let me show you how I started. It's the same start, nothing new, but just in case if you were wondering. So we will start with the slip knot. One thing to mention here, so all your project looks the same and cohesive, is that when I started this panel, I started it from here. Therefore, the first row is faced with the right side towards me. we need the same thing here, but if I start in this corner, the first row will be facing the back side towards me, so you're gonna have to start here on this side, and we will join in the corner and put a V-stitch. So chain 3 counts as the first double crochet plus chain 1 and 1 more double crochet into the space. Another thing that you need to keep in mind is how many V-stitches you put on this side. I have 10. You're gonna have to do your best to put the same exact amount of V-stitches on this side. So there were times where I skipped 2 and there were times where I skipped 1 chain, but I balanced them so they're 10. So regardless of how many squares you have, just make sure you remember how you distribute the first row of V-stitches, so you end up with exact amount on both panels. And I remember that I skipped only 1 and put the second V-stitch. Then I skipped 2, that's my third V-stitch. Then 2 more, fourth. Then 1 and my fifth. Then 1 and the seam and my sixth into the chain. Then 2 and my seventh. Then 2 and the eighth. Then 2 and the ninth. And the last one, skip 1 and it goes into the corner of the square, and that's the 10th. If you want to, you can use the same exact steps like I did. And now the regular turn the work, slip stitch into the space, into the chain 1 space, chain 4 and put a double crochet into the same space. Move to the next V-stitch and put a V-stitch into it. And then move to the next one and a V-stitch into it. And I will be continuing until I have 7 rows. You will be continuing your front panels until you have the exact amount of rows like you have on your back panel. Once you're done with the back panel and with the front panels, turn the work with the wrong side out and try it on so you can see how wide you need to sew these straps. For me it's only 3 V-stitches, 3 V's, front and the back. For you, give it a try and see whether you want it wider or you want only 1 or 2, totally up to you. And this way, here is gonna be the fold. But turn it with the wrong side out so you can sew them together. Alright, so as I said, I want 3 V-stitches, 1, 2, 3. And I will put my needle into the stitch between the 3rd and 4th V-stitches. You can grab only one loop, but I like to grab both loops. Same here, 1, 2, 3, and both loops, like so. And immediately tie a knot to secure it. If you want to sew it in first and then try it on, make only one knot so it's easier for you to undo it later if you need. And then I will be inserting the needle in each stitch until I reach the end. And I like to grab, as I said, both loops. Very simple. Like so. And the perk of starting not from the sleeve side but from the neckline side is that you can undo this knot, and if you need to undo one or two stitches, you can undo it without re-sewing it. So, but if you will need to sew more, just leave a longer tail, so you can undo the knot, and put this tail in through the needle and sew another one. And it worked out perfectly. So I have two tails, and pull gently the yarn if you need to adjust the stitches here. And then I'm gonna tie another knot using these two tails and cut off the yarn. And do the same exact steps for the other shoulder. Now when you have both shoulders sewn together, turn the blouse onto the right side up and go ahead and try it on to make sure that everything fits perfectly. And let's add some edging around this sleeve. Find the middle of your sleeve opening. For me it's right here, so I will join into the V to the right. And you already know what we have to do. Chain 4, that counts as a double crochet plus chain 1 and a double crochet. So add V stitches until you reach this panel, the front panel. So V stitch in each V stitch. And a V stitch into the last one, like so. Now we need to put a V stitch strategically so we avoid this corner or kind of close this corner. So let's keep, how many we have? 1, 2 here. Let's keep, this is the seam, 1, 2 into the third of the square and put a V stitch there. And this is what we're gonna have. And you remember how to distribute V stitches on the squares. Just make sure to remember, so you are gonna put the same amount of V stitches on this square and on the other sleeve when you are gonna be working. So we already have one. Skip 2 chains. This is gonna be the second one. Skip 2 stitches, the third one. And skip 2 stitches, the fourth one is gonna go into the corner of the square. So now we remember that we have 4 V stitches on our squares, like so. Next we have a bunch of V stitches here all the way around. We will be putting 1 V stitch in each row. So V stitch here, V stitch into the next row, into the next, and so on. Here when we get to the shoulder seam, we will put one double crochet, chain one, and the other double crochet is gonna go beyond the seam right here, like so. So it's basically one double crochet in each. If we will put 2 V-stitches, it's gonna be too crowded unless you want some flared sleeves. I don't want them, so I put only one double crochet to the left and to the right of the seam. And then we will continue with V-stitches until we reach the square. V-stitch, V-stitch. Okay, we got to the square, but we remember that last V-stitch of this square went into the corner, so we are putting the same V-stitch into the corner. 1, then we skip 2 into the next is our second V-stitch, then we skip 2, we put into the next our third V-stitch, and we skip 2 into the third, our fourth V-stitch. And to keep the pattern exactly the same like here, there is our last V. Now we are gonna put a V-stitch already in the underarm area. And there is the other corner. And I need one more V-stitch. And slip stitch into the third chain from the beginning. Chain 1 and cut off the yarn. And this is how the sleeve looks like, or the sleeve opening. Go ahead and repeat the same steps for this side. Now let's go ahead and put a row of single crochets all around the neckline. You would want the single crochets to be turned with the right side towards you, so the project should be with the right side up, and you will start with the left side. Join somewhere in the corner. I usually like to pull on both loops and pull through. Chain 1, and now 2 single crochets into the first row, 2 single crochets into the next, 2 single crochets into the next, and so on till we reach the bottom of the row. There's what we have. Now we got to the square, or depending on how many rows you have up. When you get to the square, single crochet into the space of the square, and then single crochet in each stitch. That should be pretty easy. And into the last stitch. There's what we have. Now you're gonna turn it, and you're gonna put a single crochet in each stitch. Like so. And now we're gonna move up on the other side. single crochet not into the stitch that is sewn, but to the next stitch, and in each stitch up. And the last one goes into the space of the square, and then we're gonna go up, putting 2 single crochets in each row, and into the last V you are gonna put a single crochet into the space and 1 single crochet into the chain right here. So there is skip 1 and into the next, chain 1 and cut off the yarn. Now I turned this upside down, and as you can see from the picture, I do have a couple of rounds of V-stitches going downward, and this is the left side where my seam is. You can see it a little bit, not very clearly, but I will join here as well so everything is aligned. I will start in this stitch, which is right next to the seam, and chain 4 and put a V-stitch into the same, another double crochet into the same stitch. Now an option: if your waist is really small and your hips are larger proportionally, you would want to put V-stitches every other stitch. Let's say skip 1 V-stitch, skip 1 V-stitch. Or you can skip 2 V-stitch, skip 1 V-stitch. So you're gonna have to balance it according to your shape. And I got to the point of the seam. These are the most tricky ones, but I will skip 1 and put a V-stitch here somewhere. And then skip the seam, 1 stitch and another V-stitch. And I don't know at this point if you need me or not, because we've been through this for so many times. You probably already know how to add V-stitches to the squares, but let me do a few more stitches and just let you finish it the way you like it or the way you want it. And here again we got to the seam. I will try and fit 1 V-stitch into the stitch of the next square, like so, and just keep going all the way around. And from now on, I think it's pretty clear. Once you've done the first round, turn the work, add another round, turn the work again, add another round, for as many times as long your top you want to be, or if you have a lot of yarn, just as long as you want your dress to be. And this sums up the project. I really hope you liked it and enjoyed creating something new for your wardrobe. And this was it for the tutorial. I hope you enjoyed it and ended up with a really nice blouse in your wardrobe. You have a good one. Bye bye!